that.
Welcome, epic humans. Welcome to the Relentless Podcast. We're here to help mission-driven entrepreneurs like you take life and business to the next level. And today we have a very special guest all the way from the USA. He's an entrepreneur, philanthropist, United States Navy veteran, speaker, social media influencer, and multi-time Forbes featured personality and CEO and founder of Nutrition Solutions. It is Chris Cavallini. Welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate the intro and looking forward to the interview.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. My man, again, you're huge on socials. I get really inspired by your content every single day. And I love your message. But even more than that, your journey has been incredible. Your story and the ups and downs that you've faced to get to where you are today is truly inspiring. So I know our audience is going to get a lot out of today.
Yeah, look, I hope so. I hope so. I've been through a lot. And, I think the most important part of success and creating success is the ability to just basically bestow the knowledge and the values and the lessons that you've learned along the journey with other people in hopes that some will be able to avoid making some of those same mistakes.
Yeah, so true, brother. So true. Well, let's take it back to the start. Let's give everybody a really clear idea of how you became who you are today. Again, what was it like growing up for you? Tell us a little bit about how you sort of grew up and how you started to forge the character that you have.
Sure. Yeah. So, all right. Well, the Cliff Note version, I was arrested 17 times before my 18th birthday, another half a dozen or so times after that. My mother had me at 16. She was clearly very young. My dad took off while she was still pregnant. So father wasn't around, didn't, know my dad, never even saw a picture of him. And, shortly after I was born, I was removed from my mother's care and put in the care of the state. And I bounced around from foster homes and group homes and juvenile detention centers and jail cells until age 18, when obviously I was now a legal adult, my senior year in high school, getting arrested a lot, getting in trouble quite frequently, as I alluded to. And basically the state of Massachusetts eventually gave me an ultimatum to either join the military or go to jail for 7 months. And I clearly opted to join the military. And when people ask me about my service and the job that I did and just my history in the military, I would love to say that my entire childhood, this was always my dream to one day honorably serve my country. Unfortunately, those weren't the circumstances surrounding me joining the military, but nonetheless, the military, without question, changed my life, and an argument can certainly be made that it may have saved it as well.
Wow, incredible, man, incredible. And so, going into the military, what was your mindset? Were you reluctant, disgruntled? Were you that rebellious sort of angry kid going in there? And then how specifically did it change you? What were some of the biggest lessons you learned going into the military?
Yeah, I mean, look, I wasn't an idiot. I knew that, going in there with a poor attitude certainly wouldn't bode well. But again, I had no discipline. I didn't have a father figure coming up. So I, lacked a lot of qualities that, a young man needs to get out and thrive in the world. So it was a huge wake up call for me. I certainly, I guess, was relieved that I wasn't going to be going to jail. But I also realized that I had an opportunity here to begin to kind of reshape my story and start creating a new identity for myself. Obviously, I was removed from the environment that I grew up in. So I had an opportunity to basically create a new identity and just start to kind of fortify myself into something that, I could actually be proud of. I was a very insecure kid. I had a lot of anger issues. I had self-esteem issues. I lacked confidence, although the gym certainly helped with that. But the way that I was raised, you develop a certain amount of issues, and obviously I wasn't aware of that at the time. Looking back on it in hindsight is when I started to have these realizations. But the military, really kind of helped me get my proverbial shit together very, very quickly, because you're put in an environment where, you're getting up very, very early, you're working out all the time, you're learning the importance of discipline, teamwork, the importance of winning, the importance of having high standards, all these things that I'd never even thought about before, let alone actually took action that, was consistent with any of those things. So the military was exactly what I needed, at the time, although I didn't realize that. I, like I said, I was arrested 17 times before my 18th birthday. And although I didn't excel in school by any means, I was a pretty bright kid. I developed an awareness relatively early on in 6th or 7th grade that people who could speak well and people who had just the ability to communicate well and articulate themselves at a higher level, I developed an awareness that they were respected and viewed in a different light than people who could not. So learning to speak better and learning to have a extended vocabulary and to be able to communicate like a professional was something that was pretty important to me early on. And the way that I started to develop that is I started to read. I started to read the newspaper at a very, very young age, although probably not the best content to be putting in my brain in hindsight, at that time. But I also had about 15 or 20 comic books that I would read over and over and over again. And, it's been many, many, many years since I've read a comic book. But, at the time, in the 90s, comic books were not written at a, 8 or 9-year-old comprehension level. It was a pretty significant undertaking for me to learn to read these comic books fluidly. And throughout this process, I learned to speak a little better, but it also helped me kind of train my brain. So I was smart when I cared about whatever it is that I was trying to learn, but if I didn't have an interest in it, I didn't really put forth much effort. So the reason I tell you that is the entrance exam for the military, I scored quite well on it, and I was afforded the opportunity to have the chance to go to Navy Dive School, the Naval Diving and Salvage Training Center. It's a very elite community, one of the most elite communities in all of the military at the time, and I believe still to this day. There's about a 70% attrition rate. 70% of the people who go to that school do not make it through. I was, again, given the opportunity to go because I tested well, and I was fortunate enough to make it through the training. It was very, very intense training. It was difficult training. Quitting wasn't an option for me because I really wanted this, because again, this community, I developed an awareness that people that were in that community, and when they were talked about in high regard and really respected by the rest of the what is commonly referred to as the regular fleet in the Navy. And again, as somebody who had very low self-esteem and somebody who was clearly always looking to prove himself, these things were important to me. So I realized that, whatever it took, I was going to make it through dive school, and I did. And I was very fortunate to be in that community because I was a very young man, and I was around a lot of, older, more mature, more accomplished men who basically forced me to step my game up. And they did that in a variety of ways, whether it was kind of like the big brother relationship, or, some guys that just treated me like dirt until I got my shit together. Looking back on it, at the time, I think when people are hard on us and people ride our ass, sometimes we feel some type of way and get caught up in our own feelings. But as the time went by and I look back, I realized that anybody who ever gave me a hard time, anybody who I thought was picking on me back then, they were actually doing me a huge favor. They helped me fortify areas of my life that I was clearly substandard in. And, I'm forever grateful for that, because I wouldn't be the man I am today if not for the tutelage, the instruction, the guidance, the leadership, and the experience that I had when I served my country.
It's really powerful, man. Like the requirement to have discipline in our lives, to be able to have people to like forge us into a better version of ourselves. I
Yeah.
think there's so many people in today's world that don't have any structure, they don't have any guidance. We're being a little bit too soft on our younger generation right now. And I think that's a great example where, you could have ended up in jail or worse very, very
Yeah.
easily if you didn't take that choice to be able to go into an institution that was heavy on discipline, heavy on structure, heavy on order, and kind of in a way like kick the shit out of you until you realize that, you weren't all that and you needed to follow the rules and follow the guidance, which is powerful. From that moment
Yeah.
onwards, when you left the military, what happened? What was different? Like, how did you take
Yeah.
those lessons into life?
That's an amazing question. And my answer is likely going to surprise a lot of your audience, because in the military, I spent 5 of the most exciting years of my life where I had a mission that I was very proud of. I knew where to be, when to be there, what uniform to be wearing. I had a purpose, and I was surrounded by high value men. I had a team of brothers around me that I was always the youngest in the group. So the youngest and most inexperienced. So there really wasn't an option. It was either, sink or swim, level up or die, essentially. And I leveled up significantly and became a different person during my tenure in the military. I made a decision when it was coming time for my enlistment to be satisfied. I was given a very attractive bonus offer to re-enlist, but I declined it despite the fact that I didn't have any money. I think they were offering me like about $60,000 at the time, which, present day to me, that's like the equivalent to like 15 mil. And despite, only having probably a few $1,000s saved at the time, I declined it because I would have had to leave the place, the new city, and the new environment that I had been living in, and the place that I'd been creating this new life for myself. And I liked the person I was starting to become. I had some good people. I liked the city, and I just had a very positive association with this new environment. It had helped shape me into a new person. And, subconsciously, I guess I thought that if I would have left there, which would have had to happen if I re-enlisted, maybe I go somewhere and end up kind of slipping back, or I don't have the same people or the environment. And that wasn't a chance I was willing to take. Growing up the way that I did, I very much wanted to do everything I could to avoid going back to the circumstances that I was exposed to. Again, not just when you get in as much trouble as I've been through, you have to understand that just doesn't happen. That happens as a result of things that you have experienced. And I've been subjected to abuse across the board. You name it, I was exposed to it. And it was very, very important to me to not regress. But despite that being the thing that seemingly was the most, the largest priority for me at the time, that's exactly what ended up happening. Because I got out of the military, and essentially from one day to the next, I lost my mission. I lost my purpose. I lost the brotherhood. I lost the discipline and the structure that I essentially had for 5 years that helped me become a better, more disciplined, more confident, productive version of myself. And, when you live the majority of your life, 18 years, I'd lived one way, and then 5 years in the military, the majority of my brain's neural pathways were geared around doing things a certain way, which wasn't consistent with the betterment of my life, to say it plainly. So I regressed, very, very quickly. I somehow decided it would be a good idea for me to work in a strip club, because I knew a guy could get me a job and I could make some cash. And, at the time the military was offering monthly allowance for maintaining a full-time school schedule, which a full-time college schedule, which they not only paid me like an allowance, they paid 100% of the tuition. That constituted, according to their standards, 2 online classes in a community college. I didn't necessarily care about getting a college degree, but I wanted to get the money. I mean, I've always been kind of a hustler, like making money for whatever reason has always been important to me. So I did the community college classes, which were an absolute joke. But in order to get that allowance, I couldn't have a job or a job on the books. So got a job at the strip club. I was getting paid under the table. And, that's when the regression accelerated. Again, I go from being in an elite military community that has the absolute highest standards present to being in a strip club, being around that environment, the nightlife, being around drunk people all the time. It's a completely different lifestyle. And I quickly, regressed. I didn't like the environment. I was still had my issues with self-esteem and confidence. So I was very, just kind of on edge in that environment. It was very difficult for me to conduct myself like a professional. So I was getting in a lot of fights with customers and very routine situations would escalate very, very quickly because of my temper and because of the just how I guess I was feeling about myself inside. So getting in fights, start drinking at work, messing with the girls, just like the perfect, storm of things that essentially was sending me on a downhill spiral, a downward spiral. So I decided to quit because I didn't like who I was becoming. And this is the honest to God true story. It's going to sound absolutely and utterly ridiculous, but I quit the strip club and actually became a drug dealer.
Leveled up a little bit.
Yeah, well, clearly, I was young and stupid and didn't necessarily see as a young man, I didn't necessarily see the long-term implications or long-term consequences of living that life. But, just making a long story short, I spent many years in my 20s as a drug dealer. I sold anabolic steroids for a number of years, not minimizing it, but it's certainly not selling meth to elementary school kids or, cocaine to, kids in high school, as it were. Not minimizing it. I broke the law hundreds, if not thousands of times. And, I eventually got to a point where I realized that this path that I was on, things started to happen. Friends of mine, other drug dealer friends, I say friends at the time, they were my friends. Drug dealers traditionally hang out with other drug dealers. People started to get in trouble and get sent to prison, and everybody started snitching on each other. And this was disgusting to me. I was absolutely disgusted with the lack of honor in this community. And I understand that people might hear that and think, oh, drug dealers and honor. And, to a certain degree, there is honor even in worlds that people cannot even possibly fucking fathom. And although I was breaking the law, although I was, for all intensive purposes, a criminal, honor was still important to me to a certain degree. And it made me physically sick to see that people that I, considered friends at the time, just everybody around me just seemingly lacked honor. They lacked personal accountability. And I knew it was only a matter of time before the same thing happened to me. And regardless, I just didn't want to be in a world where this is the way that people conduct themselves when, things don't go the way that, they had planned it. The being willing to just destroy somebody else's life, somebody else's family, somebody else's future because you are not man enough to be held accountable for your own actions is just something that doesn't make sense to me. Never has and it never will. So I started to devise an exit strategy, if you will. But this isn't something that happened quickly. I mean, I absolutely had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea what I could do. I mean, I fucked off for a number of years, 6-7 years. I didn't have a job. I didn't work. I wasn't working on new skills. I wasn't developing my mindset. I was doing none of these things. I was living a very fast life, making a lot of money, blowing money faster than it was coming in, partying in the clubs, constantly hanging around with women, driving in cars that I absolutely couldn't afford, very flashy cars. So I was a drug dealer with, flashy cars and a very loud profile, like the absolute opposite of what one should do if you intend on having any type of longevity as a criminal. I was a complete idiot. It was almost an impressive lack of self-awareness, if I'm being honest here. But eventually I got turned on to personal development, and I went to somebody who I respected a great deal, somebody who was my age, but he was very successful. At the time, like the most successful person that I physically had access to, and basically went to him and I told him what had been going on and put my cards on the table. And I told him that I'm willing to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to change. And I want to change. And I had absolutely no idea where to start. And I just asked him, there's you could just guide me and point me in the right direction. I don't need anything from you other than just to tell me, like, where do I start? And he gave me 2 pieces of advice that changed my life and continues to this day. He said, well, first thing, you need to start surrounding yourself with people who are better than you. And he said it just like that. He didn't say people who are more successful or whatever. He didn't mince on his words. He said, get around people who are better than you. And the other thing he told me is, like, I need to spend every waking hour reading and working on my personal development. He's like, the reason you are where you are is because of your mindset. It's because the way you think. The way you think is a problem. And the solution is in the pages of all the books that you don't want to read. And, at the time I was a drug dealer, didn't have a job, but I was very serious about changing my life. So I committed to reading everything and anything I could get my hands on related to becoming a better man, related to improving my mindset, related to success. And, at the time there was books, right? And this is, say at the time, like I'm, like 70 years old over here, but, in 2000, and this is like 2009, 2010, there wasn't the resources. There wasn't, shows like this. Right. There wasn't the abundance of, personal development, podcasts on YouTube. There wasn't Audible where you could listen to the audiobooks. There was books and there was disc sets. And the first disc set I read was a Tony Robbins disc set. The first book that I read was a Tony Robbins book called Awaken the Giant Within. And
such a good book.
it is amazing. And that was the first taste of personal development that I got. And it just absolutely set me on a trajectory to greatness, because I became absolutely obsessed with this knowledge and this information, because as I consumed it, even though the things I was hearing and the things I was working toward weren't even close to happening, I started to feel good being that I was doing the work. And that's when I started developing the realization that the key to happiness in life is not actually the outcome, the end result, or when you cross the finish line. The key to happiness in life is progress, which is really important, because we have the ability to make progress in so many areas of our life on any given day, at any given moment. So when our life is fucked up and things aren't going good, all you have to do legitimately is work really hard on something to start developing momentum, start making progress. And when you feel good, you are then able to conquer and tackle the problems and situations about your life that you're not, currently content with. And making a long story short, inevitably, an opportunity came about, for me to start the company that I have now, Nutrition Solutions. We're basically a healthy meal delivery service. This is what we would most commonly be grouped in with when you think of the space that we're in. But we're so much more than that. We say that, at Nutrition Solutions, we're not in the business of selling food. We're in the business of changing lives. And it's something we mean with every cell of our body. Our mission is quite literally to help people change their life. And we do that by providing them the fuel, the education, the motivation, and the support that they need to objectively become the healthiest, fittest, most dominant version of themselves. Our product is great as far as the food is concerned, but the food that we provide our clients is far from the extent of our actual product. The support, the community, the education, and just the coaching and camaraderie that our clients experience as part of our community is really, I think, what has allowed us to become successful and has allowed our clients to become successful. This is all I know. This is all I do, and it's all I think about every day. I love the process of transformation, my transformation, personally, professionally, spiritually, mentally, financially. Like, I know a thing or two about transformation, and basically what I've just done is just created a blueprint to instilling all of the things that I've done into our ecosystem, whether it's with my team, who we pay to work out, we pay to do ice baths and mental toughness training. We're literally providing them free healthy food while they're on shift. They have access to all the best supplements, for free, because I want them to become the healthiest, fittest, most dominant version of themselves, so they can help our clients do the same. And lead by example is one of our core values. And what type of hypocrite would I be if my team was nothing but a bunch of fat, weak, gelatinous, just average motherfuckers that hadn't gotten off the couch? Like, I want our clients to know that the people behind the scenes are on the same path and on the same journey as them, so they can have the confidence that we're going to be with them every step of the way, because this journey, it's hard. when you're making a lifestyle change, and we make the process as easy as possible. I mean, we basically do all the hard work so our clients don't have to, but change is still very, very difficult, which is why in order for us to be successful, it can't just be having the best food, the most nutrient dense food, the cleanest food, the most quality food. We have to help them change their mindset, and we have to educate them in order to do that. Because for people to effectively make a positive, lasting change, they have to make the connection between what it is they're doing and why it will actually help them, which is why we, put forth a lot of effort towards the education, the motivation, and the coaching side. We want our clients to achieve the best results in the shortest amount of time, and we're willing to go through great lengths to achieve that.
Man, insane story, brother. Insane story. And there's so much to that. I mean, some of the golden nuggets that stand out for me just through that segment of the story is number one. I mean, environment is so important. We talk about this a lot in general, don't we, Matty? But, again, putting yourself in the right environment or creating your right environment is crucial to your success and your mental, emotional well-being. But then also your tribe and getting around people that are going to push you to up level in the right way. These are so important. And this story really sort of shows that at an extreme level, which is unreal. But I'm also, a huge believer in that no matter what you go through in life, the good or the bad, there's always lessons and there's always gifts that it gives you on that journey. And again, you've got a very cool story, brother. And one of those parts has been a drug dealer coming out of the military and being a drug dealer in that space. I'm sure that, I guess, the hustle and the mentality, there was some gifts and lessons about business, some gifts and lessons.
Yeah.
You then transferred into becoming a world famous CEO and made you so successful today. So before we sort of move on to some of the huge lessons and things that you're doing now, tell us some of the lessons in regards to business and hustle that you learned as a drug dealer, because you were always pushed to be great at whatever you did, whether it was in the military as a drug dealer or as a CEO, and you achieved greatness in the category, even though it may not have been, the ideal category that you wanted to be in. You were great at what you did. So tell us about some of the lessons that you were able to transfer.
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, I mean, for sure, there definitely was some crossover, a lot of crossover between how I conducted my business as a drug dealer and how I conduct my business now as a CEO for Nutrition Solutions. When I was selling steroids, it was always very important to me to help guide the people who are buying product from me. And again, I don't want to go into any amount of detail, but just to kind of give you an understanding of what my mindset was, if people came to me, which happened often, they didn't really know what they should be taking, and they kind of leaned on me to give them a recommendation and tell them what I would do if I was them. And I didn't just attempt to sell them whatever I would make the most amount of money from, or whatever I had the most inventory on. I would legitimately give them what I thought would objectively help them get the best results in the shortest amount of time. And, to add to that, because I was aware that they can't just, think that they're going to stick a needle in their ass or take a couple different pills and, look the way that they want to look. I would also give them training and nutrition advice. At the time, I certainly wasn't an expert on nutrition, and I don't even consider myself an expert now because the world is changing so fast. And there's always new information coming out, and it's just such a beautiful thing that this world is constantly evolving. But I went above and beyond to give them value, and to this day with our company, going above and beyond is considered the minimum standard. We take a great amount of pride in the way we take care of our customers. One of our core values is help people. And we do that a number of ways, and it's certainly not it's certainly not us just doing what we're supposed to do, right? That helping people is not doing what you're supposed to. Helping people is going above and beyond, taking initiative, and just doing a little more than what's required to make an impact. And, when my clients at Nutrition Solutions, or back when I was selling what I was selling, I basically took ownership over their results and their success. And, I would follow up with my clients religiously to make sure that they were on the path, they were doing the right things. Hey, send me a picture. I want to see how you're coming along. And at the time I was doing it just because I felt like it was the right thing to do. But again, in hindsight, like looking back, like throughout my tenure as a drug dealer, I had a lot of the same customers that would come back to me and refer people. And again, I'm certainly not recommending or advocating people be a drug dealer and do this, but I'm certainly advocating that regardless of what your profession is, you absolutely should genuinely care about your customers and your clients and the people who support you and give you the opportunity, because without them, there is no you. Without them, you do not have the ability to produce income and take care of your bills and be able to provide for the people that you love and are responsible for looking after. So it's just kind of a mindset. Just, I want to be the best. In order to be the best, I have to make sure that the people that are using my product, again, whether it was the anabolic steroids at the time or present day with nutrition solutions, I want to make sure that they are on the path and they have everything they need. I want to make sure that obviously with the size of our company now, things are a little different. I'm not personally reaching out to clients, but we have a trained team of client success specialists that are all certified by the National Academy of Sports Medicine as fitness and nutrition specialists, weight loss specialists, and behavioral change specialists. That's 3 different certifications. They're in constant communication with our clients, and our clients know that if they need anything, all they have to do is reach out, and not like, hey, I have a problem with my order, I have a problem with my billing. Obviously, that goes without saying. But if they have a question about the gym, if they have a question about a supplement, if they have a question about the process, our team is there with them. And when our clients, run into any obstacle on their journey, they have the confidence that, our team will be there for them and we'll face it together. So yeah, there's certainly a lot of parallels. And I think it really just comes down to a willingness to want to win, a willingness to want to be good, and a willingness to want to truly serve the people that are giving you the opportunity in business.
It's great, man. I love that because I think any great business has to have that hustle towards their clients, to be client centric and to be able to go above and beyond. And we talk about this a lot in our industry, which is mainly so Andy's obviously in gyms, but Relentless Education is business coaching. And so in our industry, in business coaching, there's so many people that are just full of shit. They're full of fluff, and they just, big promises, but then they don't deliver. And what we've worked out is it's just such a simple mindset is the best way to stand out and kill it is we just work overtime to get our clients results. We work really hard to make sure that they make more money, and it's a win-win, and people fucking love it, and they come out of every way to be with us. I find your story interesting because you went through some shit when you were a kid. Obviously, you would have been hurting to be able to be arrested 17 times before you're 18. That's crazy. And then to be able to go into the military, to come out, kind of slip back, because of the environment.
Yeah.
But you still had this mindset, like, do the right thing in a way. You still had this mindset, like, I'm going to take care of people. That's a good value to have. Where'd you get that from? Like, did you earn that? Did you just come somewhere from your environment? Or?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I appreciate you asking it. And, I've never been asked this before, but I've thought about it because, as early as I can remember, like when, again, I was always a hustler. I always had a job. I got a job as early as possible because I very much needed to have money in my pocket because I was responsible for a lot of my own care and I needed to be self-sufficient. And as early on, I can always remember like when we were going out and if my friends didn't have money for beers, I'd buy everybody's beers, or at the end of the night, with the last $10 I had, I would buy everybody McDonald's or whatever we shouldn't have been eating. But, I think that just something inherently told me that being generous and I didn't have a lot to offer, to be honest with you guys, and I was aware of this, right? I knew things were different for me looking at my friends and their families and just kind of how things were. And I was aware of this to a certain degree. And I just thought that, by doing what I could do, I should focus on that and do as much of the things that were in my control, and being generous and being selfless and looking after my friends, having my friends back, taking care of my boys when, we got in situations, which, happened often back then. I was living a completely different life. I just thought that, that was the right thing to do. And that's what I should do. I knew that there's some things I couldn't do. There's some things that I couldn't provide. I never had a car. I never had, the ability to do some things that, other people could, but I could very easily be generous and take care of my friends in the little ways that, seemingly doesn't matter at the time, but looking back on it, I think it was paving a good foundation for the person I inevitably grew up to becoming.
Would you say that came out of a necessity in a way? So kind of, what I heard just then was it's like you didn't really have too much other things in your control. So
Yeah.
you worked out, this is one thing that I can do. This is one thing that's in my control. I've worked out, it's like a bit of a system. If I do the right thing, if I take care of people, like that's going to kind of help others grow. That's going to help me grow.
Yeah, that's possible that was my initial thought, like, hey, I should do this for whatever reason it is. But I think doing it and then actually having it become part of who you are.
Right.
When I did it, like I all I can ever remember for the longest time, again, whether it was the McDonald's the other night, buying beers for everybody when nobody else had money, or, any number of things. Like, I just remember that it made me feel good. And that was really important to me at the time, because for a large majority of my teenage years and childhood in general, I didn't feel good. I mean, feeling good was the norm. So I wouldn't say I didn't feel good. I wasn't aware. That's just kind of the baseline. But when I did things like that, it made me feel good. And I wanted to do as much as possible to feel good at that time, because, my life was hard at the time. I wouldn't have said it then, because I wasn't aware of it. When your life is always hard and your circumstances are similar to the ones that I dealt with, it's not a great life, as you can imagine, but I wouldn't have changed a thing, because it's not only, helped shape me into who I am today, but it gave me just such valuable perspective and knowledge and insight and all that adversity. Like it's a fucking gift. Like, God, thank God I went through all that shit, because I went through some very difficult things very, very early on. And unbeknownst to myself, like at the time, it was basically preparing me for the battlefield that is life. Because once I got into business, and once I, went through my trials and tribulations with, when I got in trouble for, being a drug dealer, once that shit caught up to me 3 years after I walked away from it, like, I'm not saying it was easy to deal with, but being that I'd experienced stress at levels most people couldn't possibly fucking fathom, very early on for a very long time, that adversity gave me the tools that I needed to navigate those situations, and still gives me the resilience and the resolve, and the ability to get through very, very difficult times and make it look effortless. And I think that's a really important thing. I think most people are weak. Unfortunately, they probably don't want to hear that, but they are. And listen, if you have not done anything to make yourself strong, you're weak. You don't just become strong. Right. You become strong because you either go through some level of trauma and you have no choice but to harden and to become just a stronger version of yourself. Because if you do not, you will not survive. And I realize not everybody's gone through the shit that I've been through. Thank God, right? Like if everybody went through what I went through or similar, like the world would be filled with a bunch of train wrecks. Because unfortunately, most people, statistically speaking, that have been through what I've been through, they end up in prison. They end up dead. They end up being addicted to drugs. They end up hooked on alcohol. They end up being shitty members of society. Yeah. But if you have not been through hard times and you've not encountered adversity, then you have to go out and find adversity. And very easy to do that. It's very easy to get in the weight room and hit the weights and do high intensity interval training, right? Where you're just pushing yourself past your limits. Do cold showers every day, get in an ice bath, cold plunges. Probably your listeners are seeing a lot of people posting about doing cold plunges and shit like that now online. And it's like, oh, everybody's posting. Well, yeah, they're posting because it's a good shit. I've been doing cold water immersion for 8 years now. And I will tell you that if I do not get cold during the day, I have a 39-degree continuously cooling cold plunge in my home before I took a cold shower every day. I mean, if I don't get cold on a given day, I feel it. My baseline is different. I'm not saying I don't have a good day. I don't have as good of a day. Because there's just something about doing things that are very uncomfortable, things that are very difficult, doing shit that you don't want to do, it's directly linked to the human reward system. And when we put ourselves in these difficult situations and work out really hard and do things that are uncomfortable, it basically allows us to get in microdoses of adversity. So when the inevitable fight comes, when life sneaks up on you and brings the fight to you, you're prepared, you're ready to stand your ground. You're ready to fight back, and not only fight back, but you're able to fight back and win. But it doesn't just happen. You have to go out and you have to make it fucking happen.
I love that, man. I'm getting G'd up. And it's so true. You got to condition that strength every single day. And this is, I often talk to, great entrepreneurs and really successful people, and I'm always impressed by where they're at and their success. But I say this a lot. I'm way more impressed by the adversity they face and how they've overcome it, especially in business, because to me, business is like the ultimate blood sport. It's endurance. It's intense. You're getting constant knocks, ups and downs, and it hits you in so many different ways. So my question to you, my friend, is you're so successful now, multimillionaire, your business is blowing up all over the shop. Tell us, can you share with us a huge bit of adversity in business, potentially in this business that you faced? And how did you overcome that? There's so many people going through challenges right now, the recession coming on, this and that taking place. I think it's so inspiring to hear some of these beefy business challenges and how you mentally and emotionally took that on. Would you like to share?
Yeah, of course. First of all, I love the fact that you referred to business as the ultimate blood sport. I might have to steal that from you and not give you credit. but I say it all the time. I think you nailed it. I mean, business is just a more civilized version of war. At any given time, a competitor could literally set up shop right next to you, right? Yeah. They could undercut your prices. They could invest in a campaign that basically talks about why they are better than you and have the funding. I mean, business absolutely is the purest blood sport, as you said. And if you want to be successful in business, if you want to be successful in life, it will be directly linked to how much stress you can deal with. Now, everybody has stress, but the reason stress breaks some people and why it actually brings out the best in others is because our ability to respond to stress is directly determined by how much adversity we have faced. And the more hard things we do, the easier it's going to be to navigate those situations when stress is just prevalent. And look, as an entrepreneur, as a business person, or as a leader, as a someone with an entrepreneurial mindset within an organization, like, you absolutely have to understand that stress isn't bad. It is needed. And if you want to grow, if you want to make more money, if you want to make more of an impact, if you're a leader, you want to develop your team, you absolutely have to be able to deal with stress. And the higher you go, the more stress you're going to have to deal with. There's absolutely no getting around that. I think it's really important that people speak on that more. You don't hear that a lot. Entrepreneurship is just kind of romanticized, and everybody thinks that it's, this being just free, financially free with your time and all these things. And it's like, dude, nothing's fucking free. The amount of sacrifice, the amount of discomfort, the amount of pain, the amount of struggle, the amount of hard work today, where I am 11 years into my business. I'm 40 years old. I just turned 40. Like, I'm working harder today than I ever have. Now, obviously, I'm working harder on different things, but I'm still learning and reading and studying more than I ever have, because the more I learn, it's funny. The more I learn, the more I realize how little I actually know, and that empowers me to go out and seek out more knowledge. And if I just feel that if I'm not doing that, if I'm not seeking out new knowledge, I'm not always trying to improve, I'm not always trying to make my business better and make my team better, then eventually I'm just going to lose to somebody who is. Well said. In your question, as far as like the different adversity, I mean, God, man, it's so much. And if there was one example I would give, I think that could be relatable to people on their entrepreneurial journey that are in the beginning stages of their business or not, because this is something that happens to everybody, independent of what stage, regardless of how prepared you think you are, regardless of how good you think you are. At the time, I wasn't good. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't aware. It was just a huge lack of awareness, lack of experience, etc. But about 2016. So so what is that? 7 years ago, I relocated my company, and basically we were starting just kind of a new chapter, and things were going to be completely different. And we had to basically build from the ground up because we were relocating our company headquarters from one city to the next. So I had a handful of people that I relocated from the city we were operating into our new location, which is here in Tampa, Florida, where I live now. And I had a chef that I hired, and I also hired him as an operations guy. And again, at the time, I didn't really understand the food side of things, believe it or not. Like I don't have a culinary background. I don't know how to cook. So, it made sense for me to find somebody who did have those strengths and could kind of support my weaknesses, which is what, you need as an entrepreneur. You need a good team. You need to find people who are smarter than you and more proficient than you in the areas that you're weak in. I mean, that's just the only way to grow and the only way to move forward with your business. And I hired a guy who I knew objectively was an addict. He was a former addict in recovery, and he had a history of alcoholism and crystal meth. He was a crystal meth addict. Yeah. So again, like I could probably end there, and your audience could fill in.
Right. Work out what's going to happen next.
Yeah. But I realized very early into our, we're basically starting the business over again. It felt like the exact same thing as it did in the beginning, only we were starting with a lot already going on. We already had a decent amount of customers, nothing in comparison to what we have now. And it was very hard. It was very difficult. It was very stressful. It was a lot of hours, and we had to move very, very quickly. And I noticed that his response to stress wasn't amazing. He would get very negative and very just not what you want people to get when, especially people in leadership positions. And I became made aware of that. And then I became even increasingly aware of some of the things that he was doing, using the company credit card for, private dinners and shit like that. This is, by the way, during a time where there was no money to be doing stuff like that. And he certainly wasn't the guy who was in that role to be kind of finessing clients or vendors or whatever. Little things started to kind of materialize. And then I started to hear just passive aggressive remarks, started to hear things from the team at the time. And, come to find out, he had relapsed, and he was basically, we'll call it misappropriating company funds and using it on strippers and meth. And meanwhile, he had a pregnant wife home at the time. And this guy was literally, unbeknownst to himself, of course. And it was my fault, right? Because I knew what I knew before, and I still gave him this opportunity and still leaned on him and still treated him as an equal, even though looking back on it, he was the furthest fucking thing from it. But he was literally trying to sabotage the operation. And it's impossible to move forward when one of the key people is purposefully going behind your back and just, putting things in my employees' ears, just talking about who I really am at the core, and was spreading rumors that I was doing cocaine when I was coming into work, and I had a coke problem, and all of these things that were just wildly, just random, seemingly on the surface. But then really when everything kind of came to the surface, what I realized, he was just projecting what he was doing and what he was feeling onto everybody. And this was a problem, because this guy, he was the operations guy, and he had talked a bunch of the employees into leaving while he was still there, mind you. I didn't find out about this until after. So we had like a situation where we lost like half of our staff over the course of 1 week's time. And then after that happened, we lost even more people just as a response, that like, oh, holy shit, like everybody's jumping off the ship. We need to do that too. And then I realized what the fuck was actually going on. 'Cause I'm like, shit, why would this be happening? Like, things are going good. We're actually creating momentum. We're growing. Like, things are actually starting to fall into place. And then I had to detach, and I had to look at things not as I wanted them to be, but as they were. And I realized, and then I started asking people and talking to people and just kind of putting the pieces together. And I realized this guy was like literally, I mean, he hated me because when he saw me, he was reminded of everything that he was not.
Right.
And although I was trying to help him, and although I was trying to help his family, and I was giving him a new lease on life and giving him an opportunity to be the man that he claimed he wanted to be, I failed to recognize who he really was, and I failed to take the appropriate level of action to basically part ways with him before he could cause the damage that he did. But just like all other adversity, you know, there will be good that comes out of really, really bad situations, provided you have that mindset and provided you're actually looking for it. So basically, I got rid of him. I don't know if I should say this, but he had a pregnant wife at home, and I actually fired him on Thanksgiving Eve, which wasn't a decision I struggled with at all. I felt actually great doing it because I knew that in order for us to basically take back control and get things on track, there was absolutely no way I could do it with him having anything to do with the company. Of course, I did the right thing, gave him a small severance, what I could at that point, but I had to pick up his roles and responsibilities as well. And with the small team that I had, I basically told him, like, look, guys, like all of these people that left, they left for reasons that may or may not be true. I don't care to deny or, you know, contest any of the things that were said. But what I do know is this: every single one of them is sitting back, looking in, secretly hoping that we're going to fail. So we can do one of two things, right? We could give them what they want, and we could just let this whole thing go to shit, all the work that we put in over the last year. I was like, or we can go all in and we can work around the clock and we can do what we're supposed to do and we can take care of our clients. I was like, I think that we have everything we need right here to accomplish what needs to accomplish. And I've never told you guys something that I never said, and this is the good thing. I had a good reputation with my team where I would say something and then it would happen, right? Even if it took 6 months or a year. And some of these people, they've been with me long enough to know that when I say something, and if I see something and I believe something, that it's going to happen, even if nobody else can see it. And I told them, like, look, we lost, 10 people. Whatever. Like, I mean, we lost more than half of our staff. I was like, but I think we have everybody we need right here to not only get the job done, but to get the job done better than when all those other people are here. It's going to be hard. It's going to require us to work a lot of hours. I was like, but I promise you, if you guys help me and we're able to get through this, I was like, I give you my word that I will be loyal to you forever. And not only that, I will find us the right people that will help us grow, that will help us be who we are at our core, and will actually be good cultural fits for what it is we stand for here. And it was awesome because, and it was hard work and it was a lot of hours, but the hard work and long hours are not, it doesn't hurt when you're with people who want to win. It hurts, it sucks, it's uncomfortable, and it's stressful and miserable as fuck when you have a bunch of assholes who don't care. And the people I had around me, everybody did the work of about 3 people, and we were able to basically pull off the impossible. And with a very, very, very small crew, we were able to take care of everything and not miss a beat, and get the people hired and that we needed to over the course of a month. And in that situation, we learned a lot about the importance of adversity, the importance of loyalty to the mission, and ensuring that people that are part of our team are good cultural fits. And we also got to learn about each other and what we were all capable of when stakes were high. And for me, that's the most valuable thing, to see how people perform when the pressure is turned up and stakes are high. That's important. You got to know how people respond under stress. And everybody that was part of that crew, they answered the call of duty, and I was very proud of them, and that brought us closer together. So
that's such a powerful story, man. Like, we could do a whole podcast just breaking down that one bit about culture and what you learn inside your business. There's so many great lessons there. Like, I've been part of a company where we've had a couple of cancerous team members. I know Andy's had the same problem, and you think you should handle it earlier, and then you hold them on for another 6 months, and then they fucking take half the company with them and turn everyone against you and shit. And just the power of having less people but more commitment, more buy-in, more loyalty, and what's
Yeah.
possible within that. It's such a powerful message that just rings true. You know, I'm sure tons of other business owners will be listening to this thinking, yep, been there, or maybe they're going through it right now and they're thinking, should I fire this person? Every time I've ever
Yes.
thought, should I fire this person? When I've done it, I've always looked back and been pissed off at myself for not doing it 12 months earlier, every single time.
Yeah. And to add to that, I think that if you are thinking about terminating somebody, the reality of it is you should have already done it. And
Right.
this also, I think the reason why sometimes people procrastinate and hesitate, I know for me, in the past, when I've failed to take the appropriate level of action in the appropriate level of time, the reason was, in some situations, sometimes these are people that actually, they perform,
Right.
they contribute, they do their job. In some situations, they do their job well, but if they're bringing down camaraderie, if they're not supporting the mission, if they're bringing down the people around them, it doesn't matter how much they're contributing, because there's no way their individual contributions, no matter how good they may be, there's no way it even remotely comes close to the cumulative impact and loss of efficiency and production and morale of all the people that they're essentially dragging down. Like, you can't have a person in the workplace that basically just sucks the life out of everybody. Nobody wants to be around fucking negativity. And then look, I'm just speaking from my own experience. Like, at my company, there is no negativity. We don't have people like that. And we have a process when we bring people in, things we're assessing and looking for. Obviously, it's not possible for us to objectively tell, in the hiring process, that somebody's going to be a fucking winner and somebody's going to be culturally aligned. Because when you meet somebody for the first time, whether it's in a dating capacity or in an interview process, you're not meeting them, right? You're meeting their representative. But we have a F&G process, fucking new guy process in place to basically evaluate them and evaluate how they respond to stress and evaluate how they respond to things like, cleaning the toilets or cleaning the dumpsters outside of the building or mopping puddles or just these random, seemingly meaningless tasks that, we had to do in the military that basically assess an individual's attitude, their willingness to take pride in their work, regardless of how big or small the task. Because, at the end of the day, you can't expect to do big things without first becoming just a master of the motherfucking universe and all the small things. And it's very simple to, evaluate if somebody has a good attitude. And that's what we need. The energy in our company and in our environment is something that we need to protect. And our culture is very important, to the success of our organization. And like, if you got somebody in the workplace that's negative, just fucking get rid of them. Like, get rid of them. Like, it's costing you so much more than you can possibly quantify. And the problem with that is you're not aware of it until you get rid of them. But any time that I've gotten rid of somebody, and I don't know if you guys can speak to this, but a lot of times you fear, okay, I mean, there have been times I fired 7 people in one day before because of this exact situation. Not the situation I just shared with you, but because they were not good cultural fits. And because the person that I had in charge had failed to take that action, I had failed to hold them accountable. So I needed to act. And I did that with the confidence of what I knew before. When we lost a bunch of people, we still got the job done, because when you have the right people who are committed to the mission, you're able to get more done in less time with less people. But that natural hesitation is like, oh, well, am I going to lose productivity? Am I going to lose this? Am I going to lose that? It's funny because literally every single time we've ever fired somebody or let multiple people go, even, not only did that never happen, but things got better, not eventually, but fucking immediately. Like, the next day, there was a considerable come up and noticeable, measurable difference in energy and morale and people's attitude. And when you have a come up in energy and morale and people's attitude, you are also going to have a measurable come up in productivity.
So true, spoken like a true wartime CEO. And those lessons are timeless. As Maddie said, I think most businesses go through a similar phase, at least once or twice in the journey, but it can definitely ruin a lot of companies, and some people don't make it out of that. So I think those lessons are going to resonate with so many of our listeners. Chris, I've got one final question for you, brother.
Yeah.
I love asking this at the end. If we could rewind the clock, if we could put you in a time machine and you could deliver just one lesson to your younger self to help you fast track your journey and maybe overcome some of the difficulties that you face, what would that lesson be?
Yeah, depending how young, I mean, let's just say 16 to 21 years of age. I think these are very important years as a man. And I would basically just go back and tell myself that, you know, inconsistent with what everybody is telling you, inconsistent with the narrative that society pushes, you need to go faster. You need to work very, very hard, and you need to get focused on something now. But that's not to say that you need to have everything figured out and you need to have your life's plan laid out. But hard work works. And the earlier you can develop a work ethic that is consistent with you creating success and abundance in your life, the absolute better and higher probability you will actually have of achieving whatever it is that you set your mind to. You know, the narrative now is like, oh, you're so young, you have all this time to figure it out. It's like, no, you do not. Okay, because if you spend your 20s sitting on your ass, getting fat, being weak, being lazy, playing video games, jerking off to Pornhub, which most men, unfortunately, are doing in modern day. Okay, you are creating these neural pathways in your brain, and this behavior becomes something that it just becomes a subconscious act that you just wake up and go through the same repetitions every day. When you're young, you basically have unlimited energy, and you don't realize that until you start to get older and you no longer have that same level of energy. So work hard, be in the gym. Understand the key to creating a strong life is creating a strong mind. Okay, this is absolutely a fact of the universe. The way that we create a strong mind is we have to first build a strong body. When you are in the gym and you're fueling yourself with, you know, high protein, nutrient dense food, you are basically putting things into your body and, you know, taking action that is going to result in you having more energy, being in a better mood, okay, looking better. All right, like the way we look naked, the way we feel about how we look naked matters more than people want to discuss. Okay, it is directly linked to our confidence. I don't know about you guys, but all the successful people I know, they're confident. They're successful because they're confident. They're confident enough to try new things. They're confident enough to start something before they have all the answers, before they know exactly what they need to do. They're confident enough to know that regardless of what happens, they're going to figure shit out. And if things aren't all good, they will be, because they're going to get it sorted out. And confidence comes first from how we feel about ourselves. And if we're waking up every single day to a reflection that we're not proud of, or even worse, a reflection that makes us physically fucking disgusted, you carry that around with you all day in your subconscious, and you will not have the confidence to work hard towards anything. You will not have the confidence to work hard for that promotion, to work towards that new skill, to ask the girl out who, you know, you've had a crush on for 6 to 8 months, but you're too much of a coward to actually make that move. You know, you don't have time. You don't have time, because as you know, you're sitting back, taking your time, going at the pace that's most comfortable for you. There's other people out there that are not, that are working, and they're working very, very hard to improve their skill set, to improve their mindset, to improve the value that they're able to contribute to the world. And the absolute best time to start creating the skills and the value in yourself to where you can be a high value individual and be able and be equipped to create a happy, fulfilling, successful life is when you're young, because this is the time that you have the ability to try a lot of new things, to fuck things up. You don't have to sleep as much. Your body can take a lot more punishment. And I feel like a lot of people just waste these fucking years, especially now. You know, there's life has become very comfortable, and some of that is good. Some of that is good as far as the evolution of technology and things like that. But a lot of the new generation, I hate to sound like that old guy, like, you know, talking about the next generation. But, you know, I have this awareness because growing up in the 90s, like as a boy, we were outside, we watched pro wrestling. So we had these like jacked bodybuilder, masculine males as role models to look up to. You know, we didn't have social media and TikTok and all this bullshit that, you know, and Pornhub and all this shit of the fucking video games. There wasn't these things competing for attention. And, sadly, that's where we're at right now. And I'm going to tell you that a competent, capable man or woman is a strong, capable man or woman. You have to be strong. And again, the way you will develop a strong mind, which will allow you to create a strong life, starts with you building a strong body.
I love that, brother. Great message to end on. My man, where can our viewers and listeners find more of you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity. It was good chopping it up. Hopefully your audience gets something from this. And anybody who wants to find me on social, Chris Cavallini, at Chris Cavallini on all platforms. My company, Nutrition Solutions. You can check us out online as well, nutritionsolutions.com, at Nutrition Solutions, Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, that's about it. I got a podcast, Start Today podcast. But if you follow me on social, you'll come across that. So don't worry about remembering all that. A lot of information. Hit me up on Instagram.
Awesome. I love that, bro. Brother, it's been an honor and a privilege. Your story is incredible. And the message and character that you forged, it's inspiring, dude. We need more of that in the world. Guys, if you're listening and you love this, make sure you share this story. Share this with someone that needs this message, someone that needs to go out there and get it, to step up, to improve their life. Again, a story like Chris's just shows you that no matter what you face, you can come out the other end successful and a good human being. We'll see you on the next episode of the Relentless Podcast.
All right, boys. Well done.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, thank you guys. I hope that was what you were looking for.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. What a story, bro. Wild.
No, that was really good.
Thank you.
We could have pushed that for 2
you
hours
guys,
for sure.
good. Yeah, good job guiding the discussion. That was very helpful.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, dude, thanks again, bro. We're going to chop this up. We'll get this out shortly. I'll message you on email and IG and get you some footage. And yeah, man, our audience will love this. So, yeah.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Have a good day. See ya.
See you, man.